Hello, welcome to the live. So, I was just thinking about something about having a no fear approach to life, particularly in terms of your life goals. And the way to think about it is the fact that we only really have we have a short life relatively. It might feel like long, but we only have a few years where we're on it, you know what I mean? And our focus tends to go in waves as well. You might have an extreme period of focus when you're young on study, moving into an extreme period of focus in some hobby or something, then in a career, and then in a business or whatever. So you've got these kind of waves of focus, or it might even be in your personal life, in dating, you might be mega focused for a period of time. But when you realise that, you know, the amount of, I think we've only got something like 2,600 days or something, or whatever, you know, I don't know what the exact figure is, but it's not a lot of time. So really having that kind of, I'm going to call it positive selfishness. And I don't think it is being selfish to achieve your goals. I think you should be doing that anyway, particularly if you've got people that are reliant on you in some way. I think you owe it to them. You know, if you've got family that are reliant on you, I think you owe it to them to be your best, whether that's perform your best at work, put in 100% every day. And when we say 100%, that doesn't mean working yourself to the bone. It means deliberately, with intent each day, trying to achieve the things that you said that you'd set out to achieve. And you don't have to be militant about this, you know what I mean? It's not about the amount of physical effort that you put in, although that can help at times. But it's your best in terms of what is the minimum sustainable effort that you can put in each day, right? And that's why I always, you know, I talk a lot about doing at least what are the top 3 things I need to do today. And that's where I focus, so I really focus on those top 3 things, and that's what I'm doing. But there's more to it than that. So if you've got people, even yourself, you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to friends and family, people that rely on you, to go out there and achieve your goals. And from a personal perspective, it's things like you owe it to your family to remain healthy, and that means putting in some hard work in the gym, things like this. But positive selfishness is a bit more than that. I think if you are, depending on your level of ambition, and I'm imagining if you listen to this, you've got some ambition, right? If you've got plenty of ambition, then you've got to realise that we only live that short period of time, and you need to be a bit more fearless about what you do. And that doesn't matter if you think about some of the areas, right? Business or career, taking risks. Yeah, go and get the job that you want or the business that you want, right? That's a hard thing to do, but you've got to take risks to get that. I think about life like almost like a video game. You know, if you were playing a video game and you wanted to get from level 1 to level 2, you'd have to make the jump, wouldn't you? You'd have to jump that gap or whatever. So take risks there. And also, I was talking to someone yesterday who's in marketing, a young girl who's in marketing, and was chatting about reaching out to, sometimes you have to reach out to, say, famous people to ask them to help you with your products or reviews and things, whether it's like, you know, reaching out to influencers. And you've got to do as much of that as you can. And even if it means turning up to events in person and going having conversations, this is one thing I've started to do recently, is try to go to a few events and find people, you know, influential people, get contacts. This is why when you're out and about, this is how I met this person yesterday, just chatting. When you're out and about and you're in a social situation, open your mouth, get to know people, speak to people, right? Get contacts, because you never know who you're going to meet. I think about all the people that I've met when I travel. A lot of the time I've traveled alone. I've met some of the most wonderful people, great contacts that have helped me just through talking to people on my travels and being social. And I think that's, when you're in social situations, you're always wondering, what do I say? Oh, what happens if they don't, respond very well? As long as you're cordial and you're polite, it's almost like in dating, what they call approach anxiety. If you want to go and talk to someone, let's say you're in a coffee shop, or it could be a bar or whatever, or just on the street, and you want to speak to someone that you're attracted to, it's in here. It's called approach anxiety. And it's the same if you're in, let's say, a big social setting where you're trying to connect with business contacts and things like that. You've also got approach anxiety there, especially if the other person's like quite famous and you're thinking, bloody hell, what happens if they just tell me to sling it? Usually people are, if you're polite, most people are okay. But it's getting over that kind of approach anxiety in any situation, in your personal and your professional life. So like if you think about the dating context, after like let's say you after a breakup or something like this, you feel like shit. I was talking about this with Joel, and he was saying, yeah, when he went for a breakup, that was the video I did on dating avoidant women, and he went through that breakup. He felt like shit, you know what I mean? He wasn't in the mood to date, and that's fine. You got to take a bit of time for yourself, but eventually, you got to get back out there. You know what I mean? If you want to meet someone new, and that means taking a few risks and reaching out to people and stuff like this. Hey, how are you doing? So yeah, and it's the same in business as well. One of the things that I need to do next week, particularly with my e-commerce, the journal products, is I've got to go and I've emailed a few independent bookstores, about stockists, and you get a bit back, but email's not a really good, you need to email thousands. You'd have to do a big mail shot to get the numbers. A better way of doing it is me turning up in person and speaking to the business owner person to person. So I'm going to have to do that next week. And yeah, there's a bit of, I've never had any fear over business, by the way. It's just, it's just whatever needs doing. But, if you think about it, if you're starting a new business, you need help. You need people to help you, influencers, that kind of thing. You've got to start reaching out to people. You've got to make contact. But you've got to accept that sometimes you're going to get some rejection. It's the same in dating, right? You're going to get some rejection, but you've got to know how to handle it. And I used to work with a guy that said, you've got to have more skins than an onion. You know what I mean? You've got to make it water off a duck's back. And a guy who worked for me once as a sales director, he's quite experienced in this. And he showed me how to reach out to people for business connections quite well, because he's a professional salesperson. And he launched a brand once. And just through him being tenacious, right, and reaching out to loads of different celebrities to help endorse his product, he ended up getting something like 300 celebrities pictured with his product. And it was fucking brilliant. And he kind of like showed me a bit about it. And he told me some stories about when some of them are being a bit shirty with him, like biting back and saying, why they must get, you got to understand, if you're a celebrity, you're going to get fed up with the amount of messages, Instagram DMs, all that kind of stuff. But as long as you're, you don't take it personally, just like, in dating, you don't take that personally, rejection. You know, the idea with anything, whether it's business, personal, is you are going for what you want here, right? This is the positive selfishness. You're recognizing that we're only on this earth for a limited time, and you're going to go for what you want. And as Mark Manson said in his book, he calls it true vulnerability, which is sticking your neck out, right? Being vulnerable is actually saying, you know, I like you or whatever, right? And having the, almost like the confidence to do that. It's a superpower if you develop it, but it's quite hard as well. I don't care who you are, you know, even the hardest of, you know, even these flipping pick-up coaches, you know, if they get, everyone has approach anxiety, no matter who you are. And it's the same in business, even salespeople. I remember when I've spoke on stage at a few events, you know, where you got like in front of hundreds of people. Every time, and I think this is the same for like famous people like pop stars and musicians that go on stage. One thing I found when I spoke on stage is, even though I was speaking about my subject matter expertise and I knew what I was talking about inside out, I almost didn't have to rehearse it. Just needed a list of bullets and I'd be fine. Even though it was my subject matter, because it's different to me speaking now to YouTube, because it's like I'm just talking to a phone. But when you're on stage and you've got hundreds of people in front of you, every single time I did it, the first 5 minutes I was nervous as hell. I'd start and I was like physically shaking or whatever. And then after about, say, it took about 5 minutes, and then you'd settle in and then you'd realise that it was okay. And I think a lot of musicians say this when they go on stage. They're in front of like 100,000 people, well, 50,000 people, whatever. And they still get the nerves every time you go up on stage. And it's the same if you approach someone in a personal or professional situation to, you know, get what you want out of that interaction. There is that anxiety there, right? No matter who you are, it's always there. But what are we doing? We're trying to train ourselves to be, yes, we understand the anxiety and the fears and all the rest of it, but notwithstanding that, we're still going to go ahead. And I was reading something, a little meme, and it's talking about, obviously, successful people taking risks. And the other thing that successful people do, the reason why they're successful is not because they haven't failed. It's not through not failing. It's because they've failed, they're successful. And it's almost like the amount of failures is correlated to the amount of success. So, and the meme was something like, if you want to up your rate of success, you have to up your rate of failures, right? And that is true in any situation. If you think, so let's look at the example, right? There is a correlation between the amount of times you fail and the amount of times you win. And just take a typical sales scenario. You've got a sales funnel at the top, right? You've got this kind of like sales process. At the top of the funnel, you've got all the massive people. How many get to the bottom? For every one that gets to the bottom, there's probably 1,000 there. So there's always a relationship, and you can improve it by improving each step along the funnel. But there's always a relationship between the numbers of failures, leads that don't convert, to the one that leads to a sale. It doesn't matter what you do. If you look at like advertising, pay-per-click, you've got a number of impressions, like people that see your advert, a number of people that click on it, and then a number of people that purchase. And there's always a relationship between those numbers. So the amount of failures, and you'll see this across the board. Like I think was it Thomas Edison did something, how many thousand? Like, was it 2,000 failed attempts at the light bulb before he got it right? You've got people like Michael Jordan, playing his basketball, he was absolutely shite at it. And the amount of failed shots he had, thousands, before he started to win, right? And it's the same, there's always a relationship. So, like the amount of software demos we have compared to a sale, there's always a relationship. And you can get better and better at it. And it's the same in there's always a relationship, but you can get better and better by tightening up. But you cannot escape the very start of it, where the vast majority of failures happen, right? And if you don't accept those failures, you're never even going to get back past. You're never going to get past that phase where you can start getting into the flow of it. And it's the same in those two examples, whether it's approaching famous people to help you with your products or approaching someone for a date. Like, you've got to accept that when you first start, you're going to get a shitload of rejection, right? But you have to do that. It's almost like you have to break your duck, right, on the rejection. So if you've just been through like a breakup, you're like, shit, you got to get back out there. You're going to get a few knockbacks before you get a date. And it's the same no matter what. So positive selfishness is all about going for it and sticking your neck out for what you want in life. And it doesn't really matter what that is, what your goal is, right? Whether you're trying to, like me, learning jiu-jitsu, I'm at the bottom of the journey. I'm getting smashed all over the place. It's awful, but I know that it won't always be like that. Same with getting in shape. Same with starting a new business, trying to get a product sold. Right? It's hard at the beginning, but this is the point. We only live so long. So you've got to push forward without fear. And how can you develop that no fear attitude across all areas of your life, whether it's like in business, sales, dating, health, all these different areas of your life. Like if you look at the life harmony model that I use, there's 7 areas. You could apply this to any of those areas, like taking a risk here and there. If you're not prepared to accept the failure, right, you're not likely to get the success, because like that meme quote said, if you want to up your rate of success, you have to up your rate of failures, right? So you have to take more failures to get successful. And this kind of reminds me of when you try and stick your head above the parapet to get your goals, even the criticism that you might get, which is fine, you've got to take it on the chin because you're trying to do something new. That too is almost like a little failure. But what I would say is when someone criticizes you for trying to go for your goals, yes, you might see it as a failure, but it's not. Usually that other person, it's usually someone that's not really doing anything, not really making any moves. So I think you could ignore that usually, because usually the people that are also on it, trying to achieve their goals, don't criticize. But yeah, I think generally, take more risks and accept the fact that you're going to get rejected and take more failures. And that's it really. Didn't really prepare this one, but there you go. I love taking risks. I don't know what you think. Anyway, what comments have we got? Yeah, I am just rambling. Yeah, sure. It's you, actually. So, anyway, no worries. Right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. And yeah, see you all next time.